Welcome back, everyone. And today is going to be a fantastic episode. I'm so excited to bring on the show somebody that we've had a few conversations now. He was introduced to me by a mutual friend. And there's a lot of parallel in what we do. We're both in software and we're both in fitness, and neither of us code. So really great guy to have on. And I think he has a lot to tell you. And I think there's a lot of value in how trainers and coaches in gyms today can get a ton of value with speed, getting clients in the door, getting more clients. And he's going to tell us all about himself here in a second. Today, I've got Andrew Menter from Physmodo on. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be on today.
Just so the listeners have just kind of some context around what you've done in the past and kind of where you're coming from and why you even created the product in the first place. Tell us about you. Like how did you kind of get into this field of software development and creating this tool?
Well, I don't want your listeners to hang up immediately, so I hesitate to start this way, but I am technically an attorney. So
they're gone. They're all gone.
They're gone. So we lost 25, 30% maybe. So I did, I never practiced, but I did start out thinking I was going to practice law. And about 30 minutes into my first class in constitutional law, I'm like, how the hell would I possibly do this for a living? So I sucked it up for the next few years and finished it. Licensed, but never practiced. It has been a halfway useful tool in business. So I did an MBA with that and started out in investment banking up in New York, which was a great experience. Certainly not diplomatic enough to stay in the corporate world and went on to try and do my own thing. First business was in my 30s in college health and athletic departments and software and billing, and great concept, didn't work out. We were sold. It was not a successful sale, but I also didn't have a whole lot of passion for what we were doing. I just saw a business opportunity, first entrepreneurial gig, and didn't know what the hell I was doing. So be it. Learned a lot of lessons that are hopefully helping. Now ended up from there going to Trigger Point, and I was a CEO at Trigger Point for a little while. And fortunately met a lot of people that ultimately ended up at TRX, which, became a partner of Physmodo for about 4 years. So as far as Physmodo, personally, I'd had a number of injuries just from, ruptured Achilles, slap tear, ruptured bicep tendon, meniscus. And I think a lot of it is just related to how poorly I move. And I was exposed to movement screens, probably 10 years ago. And there's some awesome screens out there. Functional movement screen, the first one out there, they do a great job, 7 movements. There's, with the advent of some of the technology, a lot of great stuff out there, really comprehensive screens. I kind of looked at it and said, I'm not going to spend 15 minutes on a screen, but if I can take the overhead squat, which is going to be in every single screen, we're getting a lot of good information there. There's something there. And so the basis for the company was, let's do a simple, engaging 30-second screen and get a bunch of info. And that was the genesis.
So, there's a good handful of individuals who probably listen to this, and they're in that functional screening phase. A lot of them own businesses called Functional Patterns, and they have their process of how they go through a movement screen to identify what exercises they need to prescribe in order to get people back to where they need to be and move correctly, have proper gait and all these things. So some of them might be listening to you going, what are you talking about, man? A squat, that's it? That's all you're doing? So how can you take this information and go, this is the essential piece of the puzzle to get, a good chunk of info so you can kind of move forward? Why would this be valuable for somebody like that, or maybe a physical therapist or a personal trainer? Why would they go, squat, done? Yes, let's do this, 30 seconds.
I guess I should frame it up and describe what we do for those who don't know. Some may recognize our product because in our partnership with TRX, we were branded as TRX Maps, powered by Physmodo. And so, we were at URSA. I think our first one was 2017. I think that may be a good place to start, because at URSA, over a couple of days, we did 1,000 screens, and the engagement was extremely high, and people would come back. They were excited. they became very competitive. And so I think that proved a couple things. People liked the screen, and also they could do it multiple times, which is really what we're pushing for. I think all the screens out there are great, but I think you have to decide, what is my objective here? Am I trying to do a comprehensive screen that I'm going to do with my client every session, spend 15 minutes? Or am I trying to just get enough information to help my client and dictate training and programming based on how they're moving? And if you can do a screen every single time before a training session, I think that's awesome. I don't want to be told I'm doing heavy push press today when my shoulder mobility is down 15% from usual. So let me actually answer your question. We're doing 3 overhead squats, giving you a composite score based on your mobility, your activation, posture, and symmetry. And we're looking at your shoulder mobility, hip mobility, ankle, knee, your squat depth. On the stability side, looking at what a lot of people do is they squat deeply but have this forward torso lean to compensate for, in many cases, dorsiflexion issues. We're also looking at if you have a valgus fault, we're inferring scap activation. So there's just a lot of information, and I think it's enough for the trainer and the client to communicate. As a client, I have 3 to 5 screens, so we kind of set on different days because there's so many variables going into how you are from day to day. Now we know where I am, my baseline, and Michael, if you're training me, I can rock in one day and get a 38 on my shoulder mobility when it's usually a 55. And you're like, you know what, let's dig in a little more and see what's going on. And I'm not going to have you do a 1 rep clean and jerk today.
Right.
It comes down to what you're trying to achieve. I think that with our tool, because it's so quick, because it is pretty simple and it's not difficult to train, you can have somebody coming in, prospective member, and hey, let's give this person, a lot of times we'll see some body comp stuff, which is great. We're just a different opportunity to engage with a member. And then once that member's in, an opportunity to try and, promote our personal training business.
If I'm wrong, correct me, but my understanding is that you guys are really kind of like the only ones doing this, at least in 30 seconds.
Unless I'm missing something pretty obvious. Yeah, we're the only ones. And some say, well, I don't look at some of the other screens as competitors. I think if I'm coming in one day and getting a really poor score, maybe as my trainer, you would say, hey, Andrew, something's going on. Let's do a little bit deeper dive here and maybe do some other movements. And I think we're almost a gateway into some more comprehensive screens. I just don't think that if you're spending an hour with me or 50 minutes or whatever people actually do, that you're going to spend 15 or 20 minutes every time. And so I think we're the only ones. I think people might say, look, I want to get all this rotational information and you're not giving it to me. And I think there's something for everybody.
So what you've done is relatively comprehensive with one movement. It's pretty revolutionary how you've gone through the process of assessing and analyzing all these other screens and understanding human movement and capturing it through a camera, and then taking that analysis and then going, oh, this is what's happening with your body, and this might be what we need to do, because you even have some basic prescriptive exercises for this stuff. So walk us through a little bit of how you got to that point and how you know that the prescription or the basis points that you're getting on these numbers, right, a 38 or a 55, how you're able to go, yeah, these numbers are relatively accurate, and they're valid. How did you get to that point?
You started out by saying you don't code and I don't code, but we have good people that do code. One of the challenges was when we started, we used the Microsoft Kinect camera, which people would recognize as the camera in the Xbox. And the thing about that camera is, think about the intent. The intent is for video games and gestures. So if I'm playing an Xbox game that requires a throwing motion, the camera needs to recognize my wrist and elbow and shoulder joints. but it's not designed for biomechanics. And so we were able to take that general body skeleton and develop our own that's specific for biomechanics, and got a study done that showed the reliability and accuracy of what we did. So we were, all fired up. Our dev guys are great. Fast forward, the technology got a little bit better on mobile devices. And so we saw that, look, we can't keep having a solution that is a big Dell monitor, a separate camera and kiosk, because number one, that's a pain in the ass and very cumbersome. So scalability is tough. And you need to be on site to be able to do that. And we want to be able to have not only something in a gym or any facility, but your end user to be able to do the screen when they're not on site. And so as a trainer, you're still getting feedback and in the dashboard to track everybody. Anyway, so the issue with the mobile devices is that there are 3D, there's the 3D camera component. However, it's on the back of the camera. So I can't have a product that lets someone self-assess when they need the back of the camera. I'm going to need somebody there to be able to use that 3D. So we're like, how the hell can we use the front of the camera? Because there is a camera on the front, and that's a color camera. It's 2D, and so the short of it, and then it's not the short of it because I've already gone pretty long here, but what we were able to do is use inverse kinematics to be able to we thought approximate 3D body mapping skeleton from a 2D camera. And we were thinking initially, like, we're a 1 to 100 scoring system. Maybe we can do 1 to 10 because we don't think we'll be that accurate. But the guys did a great job, and it's as accurate as we were doing in 3D. It's front camera, so you can self-assess. And yeah, we're fortunate to be able to be that accurate with that front camera.
You can use it both ways, right? So let's say it's my phone, my camera, or my iPad. And we talked initially about the iPad. So prior to this episode, we were on a call and we were talking about using an iPad. So if I'm using the iPad, I can point my iPad camera towards the client, and the client can go through that screen. Or I can use the iPad and point the camera towards me, or I can use my phone and point the front camera towards me. But can I also use the back of the camera on the phone?
We're just using the front of the camera. And the one thing that, because we don't need to use the back, and again, that has the restrictions of, at that point, I need you to hold up your iPad in order to screen me. One thing that is a pretty cool feature is this may be affixed to a wall, so it's very level. But it's also a great lead gen tool. You can take it out of the gym or have an additional unit, take it to, a pop-up event or an employer where you're trying to maybe attract some business. On a wall, everything's level, but, you need to have it level. So there's, a simple tripod, inexpensive, that you can use. And we have a bubble leveler. So it won't let you do the screen unless that bubble it's in the green versus the yellow or the red. So you're just always getting that accuracy. And it's the same screen, whether it's the iPad or iPhone or Android device. There's consistency across the board, which you have to have.
So the thing that we talked about, and this, in my days when I was operating clubs, a lot of things we would do is we'd create partnerships and we'd go to pop-up events, right? We'd go to a local grocery store, or we'd go to a car dealership, or we'd go to an employer, and we would be there, for an hour or 2 hours, and we would do intakes on their employees or customers coming through the door. But those intakes took a while because we didn't have a tool like this, right? We would do a traditional body composition assessment, which can be a little invasive on the information, especially if you have people standing around paying attention to what's going on. They might know what their coworker, might have a body composition of, and of course they don't want to know that. You might invade on privacy a little bit in those circumstances, and that becomes a bit of a challenge on how you have those conversations in an open air area. But more importantly, it was time consumptive. So we would be mapping all this because at the time, I remember doing this, we didn't have those in-body scanners or Tanitas. And so you couldn't spit out the info pretty quickly. So you had to do the calculations manually. And this to me seems like a no-brainer for gym owners or trainers, physical therapists, maybe, functional specialists. Where are you seeing this being used today? I mean, you did 1,000 scans just in 2017, in that one sitting at URSA. So probably done a heck of a lot more. Where is it being used?
And I will back up a little bit. And when you mentioned using the body comp as an engagement tool, I think you nailed it there, that it is a little invasive. And maybe if someone rocks in at 9% body fat, they know it's something like that. Yeah. They're pretty much not going to have any problem doing that in front of anybody else. They want to show off their results. And actually that person may not be a great lead, because the person's probably in a reasonable place by getting to 9%. So someone much higher, it is invasive, and we've seen it. They don't want to do it. Whereas you can have somebody that moves so poorly and they don't care. And they don't care if, they'd rather move better, but they think it's kind of funny that they have such poor movement. So that's one. It's quick, it's easy, it's not invasive. And then sometimes with some of these other tools, we have a client that uses it, and I won't mention the brand, but it's kind of heavy tool to take to pop-up events or to the employer, and they're not getting any information from that lead. Whereas we're able to get the information you need to have a decent lead. And right now it's just email, but we're adding really in the next 2 weeks. So probably by the time this is aired, it's done. First name, last name, email, phone number. If the person doesn't want to enter it, that's okay. But if they want to get their email with their scores and some correctives, they should. So I feel it's an effective tool versus some other stuff. And then I completely forgot your question. Because I didn't answer it.
No, I wanted to know. So how many, where is this being used? Out of all the people had this tool be used on, and like I said earlier, a lot of the people who are listening to this show, they're in the gym space. They're gym owners, trainers, coaches. Some are in the therapy world. But how is this going to benefit them? I mean, obviously, lead gen tools fantastic, and speed to an assessment or some kind of analysis is fantastic. But what they're going to want, just like any other person, they're going to want validation, right? So how can you validate that it's been working in these other markets or areas?
We are in all the stretch labs. We are in even getting further away from your markets, but I think as nice examples, we're at University of Tennessee, where we've been for 5 years now, and they were using a longer movement assessment and doing it once a semester. Not that helpful. If you're going to get your HRV or any sleep metrics once a year or twice a year, not very helpful. Too many variables. And so they have 550 athletes that now just go through once a week and, get that done, which is great. Now, they're not trying to sell anything to their athletes, but it is helpful in terms of being able to monitor their movement and prevent injuries. They just won the College World Series for the first time, and I'm not saying that's entirely attributed to us, but having
it's nice to know,
healthier people. I'm going to leverage that one. Yeah. So, but I think more to your audience, I'll just give an example. I don't think they'd mind, and if they do, what's the ask forgiveness type thing?
Right.
We're at a three location chain in Canada, women's fitness clubs, and they were looking to try and improve their personal trainers. And they were showing their potential clients, like, hey, check this out, and let's see how you're moving. No one has a problem doing the screen. And then whenever someone would have an issue, it's a nice way to say, let's maybe get a pack of X number of sessions, and let's try and get this better. And they sold tens of thousands of dollars of personal training business from from our
using the product.
software. So,
Hmm.
it's just really useful. And then as far as whether it's working, we don't look, first of all, we're not diagnostic. We make that very clear. We're just giving you as an end user, as a trainer, some great information. You can do with it what you want. Now we do have suggested uh, corrective exercise. Our partner we work with is Mover, and they have a great set of exercises and published research about how their correctives do improve people's movement. But we're not going to tell you as a trainer you have to use um, our correctives. We're not going to impose our methods upon you. You can do what you want, but I don't think it's that complicated. If my shoulder mobility is poor, I can do banded work or maybe do a little rolling, and my mobility is very likely to improve. So look, we can help drive business. We can keep people healthier. We can keep people in the gym, member engagement, member retention. We're just seeing the ROI out there.
And right now, is this like, for example, in the gym, I own a gym, right? And I'm in that position. I take just like this group of clubs in Canada, take my clients through this assessment. They go through it. Now, do they also need that on their phone? Do they have to download something, or is it just I can do this in my gym space and that's how we function? That's how we operate.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I mean, you can, if they want to track their history, then yeah, they could always just download the app. And whether they do the assessment at your studio or remotely, it all, filters into the same dashboard where you can track their progress and they can track their progress. And then your tool as a trainer, which is, it's very new and we're continuing to refine it and have a new version coming out in a few months. But it's a tool where the user, there is an automated protocol like, hey, this is how you're moving. Here's some, 3 to 5 correctives that will help address what's going on now. But there's also some template stuff. So here's something if you want to improve your, hip extension, or I keep talking about shoulder, whatever it is. And then also some by sport. So we're, targeting various sports specific programming. And then from the trainer side, you can pull from all that. But then you also have the set of 330 videos that you can pull and create your own corrective programs for somebody. So it's further engagement. It's giving you the tools to help with your training and with your clients. And what I like is that, unfortunately there's fairly high turnover with trainers, and there's some ones that are 2 weeks into their job that have just gotten their certification. There's some that have been there 15 years, and maybe the experienced ones are like, look, I don't need your templates. I don't really care. I got my own stuff, and don't tell me what to do. But some of the newer ones were like, hey, let me pull from some of this stuff. It's a great way to provide value. And look, I'm new. I'm learning.
Well, it's because it's the information that you guys have on, probably thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of scans. And so you've got an idea on what those types of clients might need. But what do you really see as kind of the advancements of Physmodo? I mean, how many years has it been since you've started? Because in technology, as things advance, you got to keep changing and keep evolving. So where do you, to stay ahead, because you guys are really the only ones revolutionizing the way that you do this, what's your plan? How do you kind of stay in the forefront?
Yeah, I think we have primarily been focused on B2B, and started in 2017. So, which is when we partnered with TRX, and just a great partnership, and getting a lot of exposure and all the things we did there. And Chris Frankel, who a lot of people may know, who was there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what his title was, head of human performance, PhD sports science. I didn't understand anything he said because he's too smart, but we were able to get some of the TRX resources in terms of, Frankel, who served in somewhat of a product manager role, and also helped us, with the validation study. And then, on the commercial side, just having their team behind us, and that was great. But that was more on B2B, and we see this going more to yeah, it's a B2B tool, obviously at the gym, but you have the opportunity to move on the consumer app, whether it's a B2C or B2B2C. But I think we can just be a real differentiator for some of the other information that people are getting. Wearables, for example, there's a lot of companies out there, getting great information. I use one myself. The example I like to give is a couple months ago, I went on a long hike, always a challenge because of my torn meniscus that I refused to address, and slept awesome, just having been outside in a lot of heat. And then I woke up and my device, my Whoop, said, hey, 97%, today's the day to take on a challenge. And then I did my Physmodo score, and I was at literally a 34, just well below average because my knee was all jacked up. I'm like, I'm not ready to take on a challenge today. So I think being able to have some of that biometric and biomechanic data is pretty awesome. So that's on the forefront. We've also been asked a lot, hey, you're going to do a second movement? We're asked that a lot. And the answer is unequivocally no, because it goes against what we're trying to achieve, which is this high throughput, being able to self-assess. And so we can take this one movement, and we're just getting more and more data and can do a lot more with it and just focus on our strength and just make it stronger. I'll give you an example of things that we can do, just expanding on what we have right now. And I just talked about some things that are helpful from the trainer side, in terms of the tools that we can help as you work with a client. But just on the end user side, if it's on a kind of a B2C, right now we have a global population that we're using because we're just doing norm-based scoring. And we're up to almost 2 million screens right now, which is kind of cool. But maybe I don't want to be compared to this global population. Maybe I just want to be compared to it in my age group, in the 50 to 54. I just said that out loud, didn't I? Yes.
Well, you did give a 4-year range there, so yeah, might take some guesswork.
I'm on the lower end of that range. I will be in that one for the next 3.5 years. So there's that. But I might want to know, how do I do against, frankly, just males, 50 to 54. I played tennis players by position. I mean, there's just a lot of cool stuff that we can use to engage people. We just, what is the stat for people that leave apps within the first month? I think it's like 91%. Could be making that up, but it's a high number.
Yeah.
We just want to keep giving people more and more information that's useful, which is some of the corrective movements and tracking of their scores, but also some fun stuff, as I just mentioned. And yeah, stick to what we do best and just keep making it more effective and more fun.
I think the application, you talk about, you provide a suggested list of exercises, right? For corrective exercise after a score has been released for a customer who's gone through that movement. The things that I might see in the future, listening to you, is how do you take that person who's a potential client doing a screen in 30 seconds? They are now a lead for you because you just captured their information. That's the step that you guys are going through, and you'll have released this week or early next week. The second component to that is, if I'm on the consumer side and I have this app downloaded, or I'm just at a gym and I'm relying on today's the day of information, right? I mean, it's so readily available. ChatGPT and all of the other AI tools can give you info, and you're more prone, as beings, we're more prone naturally to go to Google, have it ask a question and have it give us the answer that we think is correct. And now we're even to a point where we're going to go to an AI tool and ask it a question and rely on that even more heavily because, well, it must be even more accurate than Google, right? So we're seeing users use these tools this way. And I think we're conditioning ourselves to go, well, if I ask a piece of software what I should do, this might play into the realm of someone uses the tool, you get their lead information, and then the next question is, do I need a trainer? Do I need someone to help me with this stuff? And it could easily kind of guide you or handhold you into that next phase, which could easily be trainers getting, automatic leads or automatic payments for customers who've gone through this tool. I'm just thinking out loud here, but I see that because I see that in the way consumers use information today, how they're garnering information and how they're using it to their advantage to say, yeah, that's true. That's what I need to do. I mean, heck, I sometimes create my dinner off of, looking it up online through ChatGPT or any other tool like Bard. So really cool what you got going on here, Andrew.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that, I kind of come back to this a fair amount of just the one movement where it's still a lot of information, but as a trainer, I can give you 3 to 4 things that'll happen with pretty much 99% of people. And the one that's so common is that, oh, I'm gonna game this system. I'm gonna squat deeper. Oh, I didn't know that I can get big time points if I do that. Well, you do. If you squat deeper, you'll get more points for your squat depth. But I'm pretty much guarantee you're gonna lean a lot more forward in order to achieve that depth. So that's gonna happen. That's just one of a few things that is gonna give you some feedback that you can give to that potential client. And you know, it just makes you smarter. And I think the technology, which like we're in this big chiropractic chain, and they're like, this is great because I can tell people this is messed up, but now you validate it just because you're a piece of technology, which that's great. So we have that technology validation, which people want. And then you also have the personal connection. And, it's preferable if you're working with somebody one-on-one to help you improve your movement. So I think it's, nice and simple. You can engage quickly, and the conversion, just from, that client in Canada as my example is pretty high.
Where can someone, if someone's listening to this and they're going, this is pretty cool stuff, I think I want to try this out, how can they get a hold of it? How can, what's the process for them to, be a partner or purchase a license or whatever it is they need to do? Like, is this something they can try out before, kick the tires a little bit before they get it? Or since it's a proven model already, there's a license fee to go ahead and use it and have it in your facility. How do they go about that?
If they just want to see it, and at 500 locations, you could probably find a stretch lab pretty close to you. And that's a way to try it out. Or like you can get a license if you have your iPad Pro, and download the Enterprise app, and we'll give you your credentials and get rolling.
How long does it take to get set up?
About 5 minutes.
Okay. Do they have to go through any training or anything with Physmodo?
Yeah, that was a bit of a hyperbole. So yeah, we have an LMS, digital education that, it's quick. It's 20 minutes.
Okay.
30 minutes max. And I know that's about, 30 minutes, probably 29 and a half minutes more than people's attention span. But, right. Yeah, it has a lot of rich information in there. And, we're, for instance, a video on there about somebody walking a client through a screen.
Okay.
And just like, here's an example. So yeah, again, beating it like a dead horse, but one movement, much easier to train.
It is.
So,
and,
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to, I've tried it out myself, so I think it's a fantastic product. Of course, my wheels start going on, how this can be used, how it can be implemented, how it can be used in gyms and for personal trainers. And personally, I really have a strong belief in the fact that it can be used for sales, much like Andrew mentioned. And me, I've got a few locations that I'm doing some personal training with consulting. So I'm excited to see if I can use it there and see what we can get from it, and see how it increases sales. I'll definitely report on that later. But Andrew, I got to tell you, man, great having you on the show. I think your product is awesome. And if you are listening to this, take Andrew's advice, take a look at the stuff that he's got. The information is going to be in the show notes. And Andrew, where can they connect with your team at Physmodo?
Well, I've been told that we need to have more of a social media presence, and I just keep fighting it. So I would say go to this handle or that handle, but no, not yet. We're gonna do that soon. But yeah, I mean, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or Physmodo.com, Physmodo, and at some point we'll be active on some of those social media platforms, half of which I probably don't even know.
And they changed, before you know it, in the next 5 years.
Apparently so.
New.
Yeah.
Andrew, pleasure having you on today, man.
Yeah, great to be on. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Of course. Talk soon.